How's it going, everybody? Welcome to day 3 of the Service 101 webinar, where we're going to get into the data cell. A lot of new people in today's webinar that weren't in the past, so we're going to try to catch up as best as possible. But hopefully you'll have a chance to catch up on some of the recordings that are out there. We are going to get started in about 2 minutes. We have people filing in right now, so I will see you in 2. All right, everybody, welcome. Day 3, we made it. That first day was a little bit dicey, but looks like we made it through. We covered on that first day minimizing some of the risks that you have and gaining some control in your commercial roofing operation through the introduction of service or addition of a more robust service initiative. Day 2, yesterday we covered service agreements. Very popular topic. A lot of people took advantage of the webinar special, and we will be working closely with some of those contractors to really dial up service agreement efforts. And today, the Holy Grail, the data cell. Probably one of the most sophisticated environments to actually sell commercial roofing or sell just about anything, which is selling directly to those corporate entities, some of those more sophisticated buyers. You know, my experience inside of that world started fairly young for me. Before I was in roofing, I was actually in parking lots. So I guess I moved up in the world. I went from parking lots to roofs. But very early on, I worked with companies like Simon DeBartolo that ended up to be Simon Management, and a company called Homart, which turned into General Growth, the big super regional mall guys in the U.S. today. And what I learned very early for those guys is that it wasn't so much that they liked me as a contractor for being able to seal coat or stripe or do the parking, do the crack filling or different things on their parking lots. It was that I always had a real focus on understanding what they needed to do their jobs. So with a super regional shopping center, really second place to the roof in asset management is going to be that parking lot. There is a whole lot of parking lot in those big shopping malls. So I knew very early on that there was a lot of information that they had to manage there. So I started to create these, fairly manual and tedious reports that I would do for these guys on an annual basis that would evaluate, the condition of all the different sections that they had, that would evaluate the outstanding deficiencies that they had with those assets, how much remaining useful life there was before there would actually have to be a capital replacement, and then ultimately my recommendations on how they should move forward. And this report format became real critical to my success on the parking lot side. And when I was pulled into the roofing side, so to speak, I carried that same report format, which is really the basis for the reporting and the data collection that you see in facility control systems or FCS control, which has really become a property management or asset management standard for a lot of buyers across the U.S. So that history first was Riley Williams and Associates. That was my parking lot career, and then I moved into the second part of my career inside of roofing, which was consulting. And I did consulting for over 3,000 of America's largest corporate buyers, including Coca-Cola, UPS, Sears, Bosch, Medtronic, different, corporate buyers. And I learned some real lessons inside there. And as I represented them through roof consulting, representation through a major class action lawsuit that was related to some roofing insulation, a lot of them liked the way that I would organize the data and make the data available to them to be able to make decisions. And I started a company called Facility Control Systems. And Facility Control Systems was focused on one thing, and that was evaluating an asset and being able to put it into a format to where they could make decisions from a property management level to a construction management level, all the way up to the CFO, who ultimately pulls all the switches to make everything work. And I entered into developmental partnerships with entities like Siemens, again, Medtronic, and Alcon Labs, to be able to develop software the way that they made their decisions. So I had some great insight and some great guidance on how it was to take those reports that I built years ago on the parking lot side and to really make them, structured the way a facility manager needs to make decisions. And they really all make decisions about the same way. So there's really, three levels of players inside of a corporate purchasing environment. And first is going to be the front line and the people that most of you guys are dealing with. And that's going to be property managers or project managers, construction managers, and then ultimately, hopefully, you're getting into a little bit higher level, which would be the buyers. But really, again, the person who's really going to make all the decisions inside of a true corporate buy is going to be a CFO. So he is the one who ultimately signs all the checks, and he's the one that we need to be able to provide value to. So again, you might be dealing with plant managers, and you might be dealing with property managers who are going to be dealing with you on the leaks and maybe small repairs, which are considered to be expense items. You might be dealing with property managers or project managers on larger repair projects and in capital work. And then, but ultimately, when we talk about managing a portfolio, portfolio or asset management, that's going to take place at a CFO level. So you need to understand how to sell into all three of those environments to really have success and to be able to provide value in all three of those elements. So, I think that one of the things that was really a big learning environment for me was much of everything that I thought was so critical to the decision-making process or the buying process when I was a contractor had very little to do with what drove the actual decisions when it came to corporate buying. So that's important to understand. That the reason that you get the jobs that you get probably isn't the reason that you think. And the quicker that you learn that, the better that you'll do in this corporate accounts environment. So one thing that I learned from CFOs that was fairly surprising is that the way they buy roofing is no different than the way they buy anything else. Okay, I know we like to think we're special. No, roofing's different. It's complex. It's this. No, it's all the same to them. Okay, they go to CFO school and they're told to buy the same way every single time. And the way that they buy is going to be based upon taking data and putting it into the raw columns of the way that they make decisions. And if you take the way that you do reporting or the way that you provide proposals or bids or whatever you might call them to your account, to your clients, and they don't line up with the way that the CFO makes decisions, well, you're probably not going to get a lot of work from them. Now, you might get some work from them on the, a local level, but the likelihood that you'll get work on a regional level or a national level without understanding how they need that information to flow in is pretty small. Okay, so there's really three types of purchases that are going to take place in a corporate environment. And those are all going to be related to those players that I just talked about. And the first is going to be expense purchasing. So expense purchasing typically falls into two categories. The first is emergency. So emergency expense purchases are going to be roof leaks, and they're going to be T&M work. And that is typically going to be driven by decisions that are made by the frontline people, the plant managers, the property managers, and typically that money is going to come out of the budget for that local, that location. Okay, so that store or that plant, the money, the emergency money, the expense money comes out of their budget. The next level of repair, the next level of purchase is going to be also expense, but it's going to be kind of on the remedial side, and that's going to be some of the larger repairs. Some of the contract work is going to fall into that budget category, and again, it's going to be property managers and construction managers who are going to purchase that. Now, where does that money come from? Well, money can come from two different places, depending on the economic condition of that particular corporate entity. So if their profits are high, they're going to look to take a lot of that remedial type work, and they're going to look to expense it out, okay, so that it becomes a write-off. If their profits are low, they may look to capitalize that. So a lot of that has to depend on economic times. And again, where that money comes from, again, is dependent on whether they're going to expense it. And then a lot of times it's going to hit that location, or they're going to capitalize it, which means it's going to come out of a corporate budget or literally out of the owner's pocket, which is an unpopular event that takes place. So different entities, again, impact those different environments, and you have to sell at all three levels. You have to sell at that front line with the property managers and provide them the tools to do their jobs as easily as possible. You need to be inside of that remedial area to where we're taking care of property managers or project managers and giving them the tools to be able to monitor that capital work or that remedial work as it takes place. And then the most important thing is we got to be able to give the CFOs the tools to be able to have the data they need to be able to make the decisions and justify spending on the properties that we're involved in. So that becomes the true critical element. So CFOs typically are all taught to buy the same way and through the same best practices, and that is going to be to evaluate things very much the way you might evaluate things in your own purchasing environment. And the first would be if let's say that your 16-year-old kid or your 18-year-old daughter said, "Dad, I need a new car." What is it that drives your decision process as to whether you're going to purchase that car or not? Well, I think the first thing you're going to think about is, well, geez, let me think about what have I spent on that car? And geez, I got to stretch out my legs again. Woo! Damn, day 3. Surviving. Okay, so, yeah. So how is it that you make that decision process for your 18-year-old daughter? So first thing you're going to think about is, well, geez, how much have I spent on that car, that damn car, in the past 3 years? Like what? Geez, I had to replace the tires. I had to replace the brakes. Had my oil changes. Geez, I probably spent $2,500 on that car in the past 3 years. And geez, I still got stuff to fix too, right? So I still got to fix the glass. There's that dent in the back. I got to fix that. I know that the water pump is going to be going out soon because it's starting to overheat. Might need a thermostat too. So let me see. I got about $2,000 worth of repairs I still need to do. I spent about $3,000. So that's like, if I add those two up, it's like $5,000. How much is it just to buy a new car? Jeez, I could probably get a new car, a good used car for like $9,000. You know something? I'm probably just going to get another car, right? I'm going to bite the bullet and get another car. So again, the way that you made that decision is very similar to the way he makes a decision. He's going to look at how much have I spent on that asset, whether it's in leak service or repairs in the past 3 years. How much does it cost to maintain that asset? What outstanding repairs do I have remaining? Okay, what do I still need to do to be able to make sure that that asset makes it through its entire useful life? I'm going to add those two numbers up and I'm going to compare them with what it would take to actually replace that asset. And there's other things that you have to take into consideration, such as how long the asset is supposed to last, how long it's going to last, cash, different things like that. But the general formula is, if what it's cost you in the past 3 to 5 years plus what it's going to cost you to maintain in the next 3 to 5 years exceeds, say, 33% of the cost to replace that asset, it's more than likely that he's going to replace it, okay? And so when you get awarded a job, a lot of times you think, well, it's because I had a kick-ass proposal, I had this, I had that, and we're such a great company, and we've got this big crane and everything. But the truth is, you fit into his columns, okay? He was able to justify a decision based upon the number that you provided and the recommendation that was given to him in a budgeting environment and some of the history that you had with him. So he made a decision based upon data, based upon best practices inside of his role as CFO. And ultimately, when you begin to give him the tools to be able to do that, he can then apply those tools to his bigger role, which is portfolio management. Inside portfolio management, he's continually pressed to give a value to the assets that exist inside of his portfolio. And the way that he's able to do that is, once again, he adds up the value of those properties inside of his portfolio. But then he has to apply things like outstanding deficiencies, okay, and outstanding and projected capital. So outstanding deficiencies are essentially going to be all of the repairs, as it relates to roofing, would be all of the repairs. So you could have a building that's worth, $1 million, but if it has $350,000 worth of outstanding deficiencies or repairs that are pending on that property, it's not worth $2 million. It's worth the difference between the two. If there's a pending capital replacement inside of 3 years, that has a very strong bearing on what the value is of that property, and he needs to balance that. And in order to balance that, he needs information and he needs reportable data, and that's what he relies. That's what you can provide for him to be able to help him do his job better. And that's essentially where we get into the data sells, that you're providing something that's real valuable to him. But essentially, the way CFOs buy, in summary, is everything's the same. The way they buy carpeting, the way they buy HVAC, the way they buy office furniture is going to be the same way that they're going to buy roofing. We know we all think it's special and all that, but the truth is he buys from a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet has these 3 columns on it, and when those 3 columns line up, he makes a purchase. And outside of that, we can give him all the brochures and all the crazy stuff in the world, but if he can't make those columns line up, that money's not going to get approved, and you're not going to get that roof. And that's something that we spend a lot of time in teaching, is teaching you how to understand how to give the people who make the decisions the buying decisions, the tools they need to be able to say yes to you. Make it easier for your corporate clients to be able to buy from you, because that's really what they're looking for. So once again, guys, I probably am not going to be able to bring you up to speed on this complex purchasing environment inside of 30 minutes. We're not building a pizza here. This is a fairly complex environment, but fortunately, we've taken this and we have and we've created courses that give you guys an understanding and bring you up to speed as to what is important to these guys, and then give you the tools to be able to provide them to be able to allow them to make that decision easier for you. Now, so what do you get for all this? Gee, sounds like a lot of work, right? To come up to speed, and what you get here is, right now you guys have local opportunity, right? So a lot of you are doing roofs on a local level, and you go, hey, I work at the Coca-Cola plant. We work for Coca-Cola. No, you don't. You work at the Coca-Cola plant, okay? When you start to provide real value to these guys, and these reports start to come out, and you're operating within systems that allow them to do their jobs better, what happens is budgeting takes place inside of the tools that a lot of you have inside of FCS. First, it starts with the report. The report is the standard benchmark that they have as their starting point for that asset, and they need to know the things like, what is the condition? How long is that asset going to last? They need that data in a reportable format, because that's where their decision making begins. And from there, you need to provide them with the deficiencies. You need to provide them with the outstanding liabilities on that property, categorized in whether they're emergency, whether they're remedial, and then give them the projected value for a replacement down the road. That information, again, becomes so critical to the CFO as he's evaluating multiple properties. So as you're working with your local entities to be able to show them how to use this data, make their job easier, and do budgeting, that budget information flows uphill and ultimately becomes the basis for the CFO to be able to allocate funds, whether it's on the expense side or it's on the capital side. And when he sees this data flow up, or when a regional vice president sees this data flow up, he's going to be like, this is the way we do stuff. It's like you guys made this report just for us. It's like you're supplying data with an understanding of what we need. Like, they notice, they become interested, okay? And that opens up regional opportunities. So that vice president says, something, geez, I got 22 properties. I wish that you could do this for all my properties, because I really need it all in this format, because ultimately I got to give it to this CFO and he wants it a certain way. And for some reason, you guys have figured out what that looks like. Okay? So then that regional vice president, he sends that whole package up to the CFO. And the CFO goes, ho, 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 wait a minute. Where did this stuff come from? How did you get your hands on this? This is exactly the way I need it. I've been trying to get you guys to do this for 15 years. We've tried to buy software. We tried to do this. This is what I need. How is it that you got this? He goes, I don't know. You got this roofing guy. He kind of puts it in that way. He did this. He did that. He says, listen, I want to talk to the roofing guy. And all of a sudden you get called in for a meeting. And this time it's not with the plant manager. You're used to meeting in the back of the plant. And all of a sudden you show up to your meeting and it's a boardroom. And I hear these stories all the time. And all of a sudden there's a CFO and there's a president, and we're talking about important stuff. We're talking about taking a look at 25 properties, or we're taking a look at national opportunity, okay? And what you'll learn is they care far more about this data than they care about even your ability to complete the work. They don't care how you get the work done, as long as you can provide them consistent and reportable data. So let's talk about some success stories. We talked about a couple of guys who have had some success. We've got some contributors here. Guy Akasaki out of Hawaii, who I always think has a great perspective on what this type of environment, this type of data cell or partnership with his clients is really about. And we're going to go ahead and play a few minutes of his take on that. And then we'll hear a little bit more from Jack Scalo, who I really think has taken this data cell to a new environment, who has tons of regional accounts and has moved into the national account environment, along with a lot of these contractors that you're seeing down here who are evolving into national entities based upon the data that they're providing. And these guys are just saying, hey, we're interested in the information you're giving us, and we'd like you to handle more of our portfolio. So let's take a look, and first, let's hear Guy from Hawaii.
It's about a system. It really is about values and what you want to see and achieve in the end, and that's the exciting part about it. I mean, being able to provide information real time, real needs, real purpose, and what they need to do, and provide that service to exceed the client's expectation, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, I think that the reason I like to play that clip is because he talks about to be able to provide information with real purpose. Okay? Now, again, everybody likes to do reports with 100 different pictures in them, but they don't necessarily have real purpose. When you provide something to a client with real purpose that he can use to make decisions, that's when you're providing real value, and that's when you become a partner with your corporate buyers. And once again, I promised a little bit more from Jack Scalo, who's really had some great success with some big regional corporate accounts, but more importantly, national corporate accounts that have opened up a whole new world for him through this data cell. And let's hear a little bit from Jack.
I knew immediately that this was likely the best product that I had seen introduced in the roofing industry in the last 15 to 20 years. So we jumped on quickly, and that was 2011. 2012, as we rolled it out deeper into our company, we private labeled and we call our program Master Key. The reason for Master Key is that what we realized early on is that we were really selling information more than roofing. So for us, how we could unlock this information with one key to the benefit of our clients was how we came up with the name Master Key. It provided us is access to decision makers beyond facility management, to the C-level people, to the CFOs, the CEOs. There's so much information here that their companies need that they get interested. They want this information, and they see not only how it benefits their organization internally from a cost perspective, but also they see it as a management tool that they can actually control not just their properties, but they can also manage, their staff with how well of a job or how attentive they're being.
So some of the key things that Jack talks about that I also utilize quite a bit is the concept of providing them with what they need to be able to become interested. Okay, they really aren't interested in roofing, guys. I hate to break it to you. You can talk to them about maintenance agreements and all of that, but the truth is they're interested in this data that helps them do their job and helps them manage this massive amount of information that comes with a national account. When we're talking about accounts that Scalo deals with that have thousands of properties, this data becomes so critical in the management of those assets and the management of their own people in their ability to maintain those assets that you become an irreplaceable partner within that management process. And that's something that he has been able to perfect. And again, along with a lot of these other contractors down here who are starting to understand that when you are able to provide them with that critical and vital information that they need to be able to do their jobs, you become that critical component and that critical partner that ensures that you don't just get work on a local level or regional level, but you are afforded national opportunities to be able to manage those accounts. And that's where you get into that whole new world of really facility and facility management. And I've seen a lot of these contractors who are now saying, you know, it's really no different of managing, you know, the roofing side and managing the parking lot side. It is the truth, guys. These components are opening up opportunities for some of these contractors to be able to manage more. And I've seen a contractor in Wisconsin be able to take a national account that they had that was relevant to roofing, and now they've started to do the parking lot inspections as well as inspecting some of the other components in some of these stores. And it is really neat to see that. So again, how do you guys make this happen for yourselves? I wish I could have made it happen for you in a half-hour webinar, but this is a little bit more of a complex sell, and we recommend that you take it and understand that it's probably not just the same people that you have right now, but you have to take at least one of the people or a few of the people and dedicate them towards this type of sales environment. National accounts, sales environment. And we have some courses that help you understand who are the right people to be able to make this sell. What is it that you have to understand about the sales process? And for those of you who are inside of FCS, what are the tools that are inside of there that can help you go through this process of the initial inspection, going through budgeting, and then some of that corporate reporting? And for the show, we have a webinar special to where you can take our course, which is a 4-hour online one-on-one course on corporate and national account sales. That is a great jumpstart for understanding the concepts of exactly what we're dealing with here. That course goes for $1,500. And for the webinar, we are offering the Jumpstart Graphics package, which is a $1,500 value at no additional cost. Again, you've got to take advantage of that during the webinar. You can click on the orange button below and be able to take advantage of that. And the Jumpstart Graphics package will give you some branding around your system and some brochures that give an understanding of exactly what your corporate offering is. All right, guys, so that wraps up the Service 101 webinar. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. We're going to make sure to email out a package to each of you that gives a recording of each of the 3 days of the webinar, and encourage you to share that with the different people within your organization. And hey, maybe share them with some of the people within the industry that maybe aren't in your market and that you're not competing directly against. But once again, that wraps things up. Included inside of that package, I will make sure to include our 2016-2017 course offerings that include different packages from whiteboard sessions to where we can sit down and see if we can create a focus for you guys on what you want to do for 2017. And then some of the more specific courses that really drill into specific initiatives that you have. And again, our focus is always trying to put together programs that matter and can help you guys advance different initiatives and advance your life as you make a commitment to this crazy world we call commercial roofing. So thanks again for stopping out. Reach out to me at any time. I'm going to give you my cell phone after this. My cell phone, you can text me. Or you can reach out to me via email, and hope to see you at some of the upcoming trade shows. And once again, thanks for coming out. Take advantage of that offer down below. Click that orange button, and let's see if we can't get together and again make some good stuff happen. Thanks.